parking team will install those days that are gonna hamper them.
Wouldn't take much.
Is that conflict with your track schedule?
I doubt it, because most of our track meets are.
I believe you're talking about the finance team. I talked to Mr. Fairley about this. He brought it up. Scott Fairley is the avid track and field guy, maintains West Rock track very much, and he wants to recommend that we do the track and field because it's fixing the field. One difference between the tracks now is, West Valley has a 300 millimeter thickness field track, and our track at Anderson's one 100 millimeter field, so a third as thick. It wasn't built right the first time. So when we redo it, it'll be done correctly. It'll last longer, it'll be cooler, and it'll look better too. Safer, yeah.
So how old's West Valley's track?
It was done in 2017. It was redone then, and then you'll see it later in the board packet tonight, resolution about facility master plan, and then I'll green that facility master plan.
So do you still have relations connected with the
Yes, we do.
I've been on the track. Awesome, there you go.
I literally, accept the proposal, go forward.
I'll second. All in favor?
Comment, please. Public comment on this item, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm a little concerned. Just even looking. I'm a little concerned here. As somebody that's worked for the federal, state, and local government entities before, I'm seeing a problem here. All of a sudden, we're getting slapped in the face with a $500,000 bill to fix a track that's 6 years over its lifespan. What happened to the maintenance schedule? What happened to deferred maintenance planning? How come this is hitting us in the face right now? Who's in charge of maintenance and deferred maintenance schedules of these facilities in this district? Some of you don't know what I'm talking about, but some of you do know what I'm talking about. So I'd like an answer to that question. Thank you.
Do we have the answer to that question?
You don't have, there's a motion on the floor.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye, motion passes. Aye, sure.
Second interim, yes, it will be, brought to the board next month.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be to the state by the 15th, so.
612, agreement with Shasta County Office of Ed for home school transportation for special ed students, 25-2640. Do I have a motion to approve?
I had a question, but mine's not lighting up. Are there any other places to contract with for special education transportation besides Scotia?
As of right now, we've used SCOE for this service for, oh boy, long time I've been in this district, so over 20 years, they've provided this service to us. We have had talks with Cascade about picking up this, but due to the lack of bus drivers, they've not been able to pick up these routes for these students. So we would like to continue a contract with the county office for the bus routes for special ed students.
When was the last time we looked at using Cascade for this and we were told they didn't have enough drivers?
I talked to them last spring about this, and Billy from Cascade has been keeping us abreast of their driver situation. And so just waiting for them to have enough drivers to fill that.
Cascade just recently hired a driver and still Jennifer and I are meeting with the Cascade Transportation Department and the superintendent next week,
No, Friday.
or Friday, I'm sorry, and, we can bring that up if you like.
Okay, that's it. And then, just because of public comment, I just wanted to make sure my fellow board members were okay. I'm okay voting on this. This is actually done from the business services side. This is done under the jurisdiction of Mike Freeman, who's the elected superintendent. So this isn't anything that I would vote on as an elected member, but I just wanted you guys to know that. If you're not okay with me voting on it, I can, abstain, but I think I'm okay voting on it. I'm not showing preferential treatment. There's no other option.
Motion to approve,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
613, our motion passes 5-0. 613, amended ground lease agreement and termination of easement agreement with American Tower Corporation.
Do you have any questions?
Are those 5G towers? It didn't say in there.
I have no idea,
Oh,
to be
okay.
honest with you.
Okay.
This is the tower, the big A on the hill, we've had it forever, and, you know, we all live satellite phones, we're gonna have to.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. 614, 23-24 annual financial statements and independent auditor. Do we have any public comment with that one? Any board questions?
It was pretty clean, or I like it, Steve.
I was gonna say, I was really proud of this one. There was only two, small findings, so that was, good to see.
I move we approve.
I just need a clarification on something. So the $172,000 that we have to return to CDE was because 60 kids were marked as free reduced and they were not, correct?
What page are you on?
That is on page 97. Oh, nope. No, no. 905. 905. Of the census packet, the whole packet. Yeah. Page 101 on the audit. 101 on the audit.
I can look into that specifically more, but what I'm guessing is that, there was an overstatement of the UP, C percentage, which is tied to the funding. So I'm assuming that is the amount related to that.
So were those monies collected now, we're just returning them because they're not valid, they're not actually money because
Right.
And it seems like every year we have.
I'm not comfortable.
We try really hard. I know that, Heather is doing a really good job, to, getting these numbers accurate, and, that's pretty small, I mean, compared to what it has been.
Okay.
Yeah, the overstatement is from 22-23, the second portion.
I don't think any of you hear that,
No,
they'll walk over it.
yeah, but to speak on her behalf, she is doing an exceptional job on
Auditing.
Yeah.
Okay.
making sure everything's okay.
I move we approve.
Yeah, I didn't know if I had any questions.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. 6:15, resolution to allow purchase of incentive awards for students, public comment.
I just didn't want to have to march during the.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a motion to approve 6:16?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 6:16, resolution acknowledging certifications required to submit modernization and construction funding applications to the Office of Public School Construction. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
All second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. 6:17, review of the agreement and legislation for the California Community Schools Partnership Program.
It was so dramatic when I marched down here earlier, so I came early, so I didn't have to be so loud with my shoes. Sorry. Okay, so you have to sustain this after the 5 years. Free money is not free, okay? When we're talking about responsible, fiscal, conservative decisions, you're taking money that is said to be free, that you have to sustain these programs, which means you are then taking money out of, everybody wants to label it as, it's money used for those most needed or your most underserved kids in this district. We are a district of very impoverished area. I understand that. I know. I worked at Cascade with some of the hardest, most underprivileged kids in our county. I know how many we have and how much some of the things that happen at school mean to them, but you can do that on what you already have and what you provide. You have things like Mr. Rick. You have things like great school programs, great teachers, great administration. I have moved to Reading, but I leave my kids in this district because I believe in the people here, right? I believe in this board, in the changes you've made. I believe in the community we've built in the 10+ years. I believe in the staff. You guys are an example to the rest of the community of what school should be, okay? Taking free money that has ties, very, very dangerous ties. I'm not going to dive deep into it again because you guys have all heard it. You've all been presented with it. If you have questions, let me know. But I did meet with SCOE, and I told them, I want to work with you, not against you. And they said themselves, we are not happy about medical billing being one of the things that's implemented into this. And I said, then come out. Tell the parents that. You want more trust between you and the community and the parents? And they asked, how do we get that? I said, come forward and say, we don't want medical billing in schools, okay? Look at our test scores. Anderson High School District actually has pretty good test scores for the area. You guys have great teachers, you have great staff, you have great administration. But test scores in our entire state, here included, are not where they should be. Our kids are failing. Why are we added extra crap on top of something that's not working? We are not doing what we are here for well, and that is to educate our students. Why are we adding mental health? Why are we adding physical health care? Why are we having them start their day rehashing trauma that they come here to escape? We have all of that stuff available to them throughout the community and already implemented in the schools as it is. We have great professionals. Mr. Jones, Miss Reed, they're amazing at what they do. There's no need for it. Okay, thank you.
I was kind of hoping you'd take public comment after board discussion. No? So I forgot to introduce myself, so for Alana and Julia. I'm one of 4 graduates from the 80s here, and my son currently attends here. So, I understand we're a couple of years or so into this program, from what I read. And you've received the bulk of the money already the first year, and I don't know how much of that you've spent. But, I'm gonna say things I've said before. We have to focus on education. We gotta get away from anything outside of educational realm. We need to refer to other outside entities, whether they be private or government, public health, mental health, it doesn't matter. We have to get away from anything that's non-educational based, period. Too much of the school day is involved with non-educational items. And who suffers? The kids suffer. And who suffers after that, when the kids leave high school? The public suffers, the workforce suffers. Can I continue? Everything suffers when you take time away from the educational models. Everything. There's resources out there. The high schools, the public schools don't need to be providing non-educational resources, period. They're out there everywhere. So I'm not sure how much of the money you spent, send the rest of it back. And if it puts you in the hole a couple thousand, oh well.
Just to clarify, we haven't received the book money.
Okay, thank you. But I did read your, in '23, this school, joined the consortium or joined something community school wise. So if I'm wrong, correct me, but we can get out of it, and we need to get out of it. We gotta get back to education, period. And if the kids need to leave campus for other services, 100% parental consent and notification, regardless of what the public law says. I know the law says kids can leave campus for certain purposes without parental consent. Just because the law says it doesn't make it right, just moral and ethical. There's plenty of resources for the kids. Let's focus on the education. Let's get those scores up. And again, you can be a model for the schools. So I'm gonna ask that this board, if it can't do it this evening, that they vote to exit the community schools programs, period. When I saw they only gave you $100,000 anyways, that's peanuts. It's not even worth the money in the household. Let's get back to education, thank you so much.
And just to clarify, Mr. Pilar, you're correct. The law does state that students can leave without parental permission, but the school does not have to let them leave. I want to clarify that because a lot of people don't know. The law says we can let students leave without parental permission, but we do not have to as a district and as a site. We do, so thank you.
Thank you. What the previous speaker spoke about is what I call mission creep. And just to let you guys know, I'm a teacher. I feel like at this point it's kind of in my DNA. And feel like I got the weight of the world on my shoulders with all these social programs. And you just keep doing more and more. And I don't think that it is you guys at the board level or your administrators or your teachers in this room, but Shasta County Office of Education, to me, they're on a money grab. And it's so clear, because I know this grant forwards and backwards. I've been spending a year reading it. I already know that you guys don't have money coming from SCOE. They're promising you things. April sat here and said, you can spend all this money on whatever you want. That's not true. She also said that you would lose out on community connectors. I brought Chris Kellstrom here to tell you that's not true. He had to go, but he loves you guys, he loves this district, and he spent a long time sitting here, your board of supervisor of your area, to come and tell you that, because the county pays a good portion of those community connectors, and it's not in the consortium. There was so much life. I re-watched that board meeting from November, literally just shaking. I was so upset when I got to the podium that I could barely speak. All I could say was and ah, because I literally could not even believe that I was having to contend with the amount of lies told to you guys at that meeting. And it's so frustrating because they were telling you that they were buying washers and dryers and food for kids and all things prohibited, unallowable costs is what it's called. She was saying, spouting to you. I will tell you right now that what this grant does do is bring in the Kelvin program, which is a little dog that asks very evasive, horrible questions, which you guys, as a board, previous board, voted for the parents to be able to opt out of, because you saw the problems in that. Then it also, and that's under what they're considering like community and parental engagement and all this stuff. It's all funding fueling this giant, what I call the data monster. Youth Option Shasta is getting money in there. The former CEO of that got fired for allegedly stealing the exact amount of money that came out of that consortium. There is so much information. I really, really wish. I've reached out to you, Stacy, so many times trying to get this information to you. I have the receipts. I have the information. These kids are not going to lose out. What you are going to lose out on is all of the garbage that comes with it. And the reason SCOE is pushing so hard for this is because line item after line item is portions of their own salary. They came here on a night when they were not working, specifically because they were doing it for their own survival. We do not need to split our focus among social programs and putting the weight of the world on our shoulders. We need to do good at what we're good at and be educators and stick to that. And I'm urging you to get out of this consortium, make the right decision, and move away from the mental health and the social programs, leave that to a different group of people, and move on to looking at academics and focus on that, and get back to our academic day.
Hello again. Obviously, I'm an advocate for the community school program. I think it's great for our kids. I'm gonna say something that honestly tonight I didn't think would come out enough, but I agree with Mr. Gallardo. We need to get back to education. And by having the Community Tech Next folks here, I can do that. I have spent hours upon hours looking for resources for my students and having to tell them to their face when they come to me crying because they don't have a place to stay tonight, or they don't have a working vehicle, or have the student come to me and tell me that she is pregnant and homeless, and I have to look her in the eyeballs and say, look, I can send an email and maybe get you resources and get a phone call 2 days later. That's 2 days of a student, homeless, pregnant, up in Reading at the library, hanging out with those folks up there, right? So having these people on campus allows me to do my job as a teacher. It allows me to educate my students. It allows me to do those things because I'm not spending that time having to hunt resources because my students need help. So please, keep this program and allow me to educate my students. Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, there's still a school counselor on sites, correct? And they have all that information. So that shouldn't be a problem, number one. Number two, there is no data that proves any of this is working. None. None. How long has this been going? No data that this is working. The only thing that I can see is you got a bunch of kids out there right now in these schools that they have mental health problems. Because all of these psychologists and psychiatrists that are coming into the schools, it's taking away from their education. It's making them focus on things that they should not be focusing on. Life's hard. They need encouragement. Not some counselor saying, well, could be, hey, you know what? Get a helmet. Life's hard. Barrel through it. Stand up. Be strong. Football stance. Guess what? Look at where you guys are. I'm sure life wasn't easy for you, but look at where you are. The same. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Ferguson. I'm a representative for the California Teachers Association, representing the Anderson Union Medical Teachers Association. If you're questioning my bona fides or presence in the room, I'm a Shasta County resident and was an educator in Shasta County for 23 years before I decided to do union work full-time. And so I feel like I have experience and expertise to speak to this issue, even though I'm not a direct constituent of this area. That being said, the Community Schools Grant is an effort by the state to target our most vulnerable population and provide more resources with an incredible amount of leeway given to the district to determine how to spend that money. So to be given money and with the ability to serve that critical population, I mean, it might be the reason why certain kids come to school, and give that back is absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion, to make that consideration. I feel like there's this theme of keep government money out of public schools, which is an odd stance to take when you consider how schools are funded. Would these programs go away, or would we go into the general fund and, impoverish the district unnecessarily if we gave the money back? That doesn't make any sense to me. But I feel like we're singling out this specific group, and I don't know how familiar the board is with school finance, but you have something called an unduplicated pupil count. I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but I'm sure somebody over there could tell me off the top of theirs. And what that means is the state identified English learners, students of low socioeconomic status, and foster kids, and said, these kids have a tougher time in school. So you know what they do? They give thousands of extra dollars on top of the base grant. So for every student in the Anderson High School District that falls into one of those three vulnerable categories, the same type of kids targeted by community schools, Anderson High School gets hundreds of thousands of extra dollars in order to serve that population. So, and I hope I'm not opening a Pandora's box here, but would the board ever consider investigating giving back the concentration grant associated with the unduplicated pupil count, the students in that population? Absolutely not. It would break the district. It just seems, and again, no disrespect intended to the board. I think you're giving a fair consideration to this, but it just seems like an absurd consideration, given that the state has provided resources for an identified vulnerable population that, if you talk to the educators in the Anderson Union High School District, this money is actually doing good, okay? So to remove it based on, I would describe as maybe political beliefs, I think is, well, I think that would be a bad decision. I encourage you to participate.
Hi, I teach here at Anderson, I teach English and leadership, but I just wanted to share, as a teacher, this is so frustrating because I have a student, for example, who came in reeking of cigarette smoke every day, but last week before break wore the same pair of clothes and smelled so badly that I had kids verbally complaining. And I was able to take the student over to the room with Mr. Nichols, who works for SCOE, to get them new clothes. And they were grateful. I didn't have to ask the parents. She was super stoked and excited. Her dad was waiting for her. She texted him, grabbing some things with Miss Wonder. He was grateful. This is the kind of stuff like daily that I can email him and say, hey, I have a kiddo, I'd like to refer to you. I've turned it into a counselor already. I'm telling you right now, our counselors do not have time to even do what they're supposed to do. Like, they're overwhelmed. Having this resource is something, as a teacher who cares so deeply, like it hurts. Having this it's a godsend, I think. And I don't know, like being boots on the ground, someone who went here, who wants to make our community better. These kids don't have people at home who care about them. They don't feel safe. They have someone here who's willing to literally put a shirt on their back, and I don't know why you would want to take that away from them. They're not gonna lose devastated. That's not being lost.
You have 8. Good evening, trustees, Aaron Gale. I don't envy you. I mean, I know
me some of the information that I was trying to articulate a couple months ago regarding this grant, and I have it all in front of me here, and some of the concerning topics. Starting with the actual ed code, where it would require, if the state so called upon it, to have a school-based service. And it's actually in your MOU, which is in your packet as well. So if you look at your MOU with SCOE, you'll see that in your MOU, that agreement was made also with SCOE to have organizational school-based services. So I understand we don't currently have a medical facility on site, nor do I think anyone in this room wants one. But I have a very healthy mistrust of the state, and I'm very careful of what the state legislates, and they put in legislation that is law, and saying, oh, no, you don't have to do that, but at any point, they can tell you, no, you know what, you guys signed up for this. We want you to develop a school-based site, and then we want you to actually continue it beyond the expiration of the grant, which is also in the ed code. So beyond the expiration of the grant, this district could be held responsible to continue all these services at your expense. That can happen. That is a risk, and you're going to have to decide risk versus benefit here. Do you risk potentially costing the school a lot of money in the future? Again, it's in your MOU. In SCOE's application for the grant, in their Form B for project abstract, in their own words, and I have it here, it says, coordination of student and family support services, including health, social services, and more to be provided on campus or in hotspots within the school site neighborhoods. This will include providing guidance on how effectively integrating or coordinating services, ensuring that services effectively meeting the needs of the students and families. Examples: a mobile medical community school service van. Even SCOE knows what they're supposed to be doing. And they were trying to look at getting a mobile van to go to these sites. And so that would be a mobile clinic that would come to the site. Again, here is our application. This is this district's application for this grant, where it says, we, as this district, will abide by the law, which is the Community Schools Partnership Grant. So you did sign up for it, but at any time you can actually get out of it because there's not a provision in that law where it says that you will still have to remain. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. We've had 20 minutes on this topic. Do you have time for one more public comment?
My name is Laura Hobbs. I just want to quickly speak in support of getting rid of the community schools. I'm a parent, and for me, that's something that makes me lose trust in the public school system, is the idea that they can take their child without your consent and bring them to the doctor or whatnot. We're very conservative in the way that we approach medical treatments, and I would feel very uncomfortable knowing that someone within the school could take them to the doctor of their choosing instead of a doctor of our choosing, and perhaps do procedures on my child without my consent. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Would you mind hearing one more word?
Sure.
Thank you. Whether we stay in this grant or not is out of my hands. It's with you, and I'm not here nor there for it. But what I would ask, and what I have heard tonight is there's a lot of individuals in this room who are afraid of mistrust from the school. And as a school employee, I promise you that my first and foremost piece is to have your trust as a parent, that your child is safe with me. As an agriculture educator, I travel up and down the state of California, across the nation with your children, in my van, in the airplane with me, and ensure that they have everything that they need. I promise you that from the bottom of my heart, I'm not doing anything that is going to harm your child. What I have heard also, though, is that there are children who are struggling with mental health issues, and we're worried that as educators and as a school, that providing them with mental health services does them a disjustice or disservice in their education, when in the end of the day, a student cannot learn until they're met at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs. Your students walk in, or our students walk in every day with a backpack on their back, loaded full of bricks that we have no idea what's in there, right? Even as parents, there is so much that goes on right here on this device that we have no idea what our students are dealing with on a daily basis. We talked about growing pains and having, being that weird quirky kid when you're in high school. If we look back, we talked about when the board members were in school, and we look back, we didn't have cell phones and things like that, and all the social media that we do, all the ways of modes of communication that we did. You might have been made fun of at your local high school here at Anderson, 500, 800, 1,000 kids. Today, one picture gets taken of you, and millions of people around the world get to comment and say all these horrible and mean things to you. That unlocks, as a society, a mental issue for our children that, as a parent, I 100% believe that you want to help your children with that. As a district, I would ask that we set money aside, whether we stay in this community school grant or not, to make sure that our counselors have enough time within their day to see your child, with your permission. We have these facilities. We have our Cub Den here on campus where students can get clothing for families that may not be able to get clothing. The root of this is we want to take care of the child as a whole in order so that we can affect their education and help them succeed. We don't want to do it without you. We want to do it with you as parents, and we want your permission, and we want your buy-in. And if this grant is not it, then this grant is not it. But then we do need to make a decision as a district to say, okay, if we want to affect the whole child, we need to set aside money to do that. Thank you for hearing.
So, I have a couple comments. I find it interesting, in all these years that I've been in public schools, that you have board members, one on our board, another one out there in the audience, of Scully, coming here and downplaying this grant that they wrote for us, and we're getting the benefit of now. I think that's real interesting that they're coming out not as a whole, because if it was the whole, their board would have voted it down already. But they're coming out here independently with supporters telling us that we should get rid of this grant. Now, on the other hand, we have very responsible teachers here that are saying they're getting use out of this grant, helping students. And in my opinion, helping the students is our biggest thing we have to do. I can see maybe once in a while there's a problem, and maybe, yes, down the road, someone might say, well, you owe us another $100,000, who knows? But we're getting a lot more than that right now from this community grant. And we have a division from people that are on the board that's putting this grant to us. I don't understand that. I don't see why this is going on. There has to be some underlying group, mental thinking, to try to destroy this grant for Anderson. And then I see there's a lot of schools getting this grant. Are they going to the other schools and telling those schools that they should dump this grant? I don't think we should dump this grant. It's free money. It's good for us. And I don't see that big of a ramification, and maybe we have to pay something back. Tell this board, vote down tax money for our district to help it in case of emergencies. I mean, if we're not worried about money for emergencies, why are we worried about $100,000? And I don't think that'll happen. I don't think school is doing that. And I don't know why this is all going on. But I'm in favor of staying for the community grant right now.
So, I wanted this table last time so I could look into it more. Jill McWilliams set up all the counselors from all the schools of the district, and we met with Wendy and April and administrators at the district office. The counselors were very excited at the beginning for this, and then they said there was no communication between the Community Connect people and the counselors, where I would have thought there would have been a cohesive working relationship between the two, helping each other, because the counselors are busy. And a plan, and I asked April, what, if you are overseeing these community connectors, what are they supposed to do? You know, what is their job? What do they do? And she couldn't give me a definition. She couldn't say, what they're to do. The other thing that was blatantly clear is that our counselors needed to work with them, and they hadn't been. And it seemed that SCOE wasn't working with our administrators prior to that. That was my interpretation of it. I know Jill asked to work with SCOE in another meeting, and they would not meet with her, with the counselors, to get a plan going. So with them not willing to meet with the counselors to get a plan going is enough for me to say no. The other thing that was blatantly clear is Wendy actually said we would not lose our community connectors. She said the community connectors that we can get through SCOE are actually more qualified than the ones you're gonna have at the schools. She says they actually are, behavior health specialists than the ones at the schools are not behavior health specialists. I don't know the definitions of those. So she said the quality of the personnel the kids would be working with are higher if we go through SCOE and use the Community Connect than if we actually go through school. So that was what I got from the meeting. If I was in charge of something and I knew it was on the cutting block, I would have came to that meeting prepared with data and had my T's dotted, my T's crossed, my I's dotted, and been a rock star, and I would have showed what we did, what we do, what we can do, what, all the benefits, and they didn't. I went in there open-minded to see both sides. Like, I purposely did not look at what Katie had given me, because I did not want to be skewed either way. Jackie said, trust me. I said, I don't. I go, I don't trust anybody. I need to look at this myself. I want to see both sides. Leaving that meeting, I was not impressed with what's going to get. They don't have a plan in place, and there's too many variables. I know Mr. Hale said we would have to sustain it when it was over. Did they ever get anything from the state about us having to sustain the program when it was over?
He never replied. They never got back to us.
So that's something that it literally says in the MOU, our district would have to sustain this when it's over. In each of those community connects are over $100,000 in each school. So that's over $300,000 at that time. When you add 3 years from now, 6, 9, 10, 20, 30, add $30,000 to each of those by 3 years from now, that's how much it's gonna increase. $100,000 is a one-time cost, a one-time expense we get. Once we spend it, it's gone. It isn't renewable the next year, the next year, the next year. It's just for the, right at that time. What we do get each year is the staff. However we can get the staff from SCOE is what I learned from it. well. And I too was handed information and said, educate yourself, you're gonna have to vote on this. I was actually here in November for several meetings and heard the arguments and public comment when, the decision was of the board to table it back in November. So what I've learned is that no money is in play right now. We have not received funds. Funds are, from my understanding, billed, and then it gets approved from SCOE, and then they reimburse us, so it's on a reimbursement system. So we are not, we technically haven't received any money, and we wouldn't be, physically handing any money back. From my understanding, a very small amount has been, used until, the board directed for all spending to be halted because this was up for a vote and it didn't seem ethical to continue spending funds when the board was considering removing themselves from this consortium. Wendy confirmed, well, let me just back up. Wendy showed up completely unprepared for this meeting, and as a board member who is coming to learn and expect that there was going to be some argument on her side as to why we should stay in this grant, she came completely unprepared. She said that she thought, this was a meeting about community connectors. And there were almost all the school counselors, a few principals, administrators, myself, and Stacy. This was a huge group of people, in my opinion, to bring into a room in the middle of the day to have this meeting and for the director of community school grants to walk in there and saying, oh, I thought this meeting was completely about something else. That was unprofessional, in my opinion, and as a board member, I expected more. And as we listened to the counselors and to Wendy and what the community connector issue was, that the counselors and community connectors weren't communicating effectively, and there were some gaps. What was explained and confirmed was the community connectors will not be lost. They will not go away. You won't lose your pantry or your clothes closet. All of those things would continue. All those services would continue, but the kids, you know, if they need clothes or food or whatever, all those services would continue. The community connectors, from what I understand, one would not be on campus, but they would still be providing services to the students. So the counselors would then get in touch with the community connectors. So they just physically wouldn't be here on campus, but students still have access to them. Community connectors are pretty much the middleman. From what I understand, they are receiving information and requests, and they're making phone calls or they're referring the student or family to a resource. And they actually gave us a form, so it gave us a form, and they said, and the data, the only data that was showing was the referrals. So they didn't have any data whether or not the community connectors were successful in connecting them to the actual resource, or if the student got what they needed. It was simply data on the fact that they referred somebody. And there was no follow-up, there was no confirmation whether or not they actually received the service. So to me, the community connector is getting paid $100,000, and they're just the middleman. They're just referring somebody. I could be totally wrong, but this is what the school counselors share in this meeting. So that's my understanding. I asked specifically because in reading this and just looking at it from a fresh eyes perspective, this is a medical-based grant. This is meant to be medical-based. That is the intention of this grant. So even though, Tom, I appreciate you sent me your plan that was approved through SCOE, and I read through it, and everything in there we want for our schools. You know, I hope that we can get all of those things. But the purpose and intention in this grant, it looks to me that it is solely to bring in mental health services and medical services. when I asked the question, I literally said, I need to address the elephant in the room. Is this intended for medical services, mental health services? You could hear a pin drop in the room. The mouth of Wendy and April dropped because they didn't actually think that someone was gonna ask that question and bring it up. And I'll tell you what, a lot of the counselors in there felt empowered to ask more questions and to say that they weren't in agreement. Like, knowing the details of the grant and having Wendy confirm that in other school districts, such as San Jose, Alameda County, they have already implemented these medical services in clinics. I have a father-in-law who's a firefighter paramedic, and already in Lake County, one of their schools has a medical clinic. And so the intention of this grant is almost at full medical and mental health services. So for me, that's a concern because we, as a board, you guys just passed a resolution to legally parents' right to know, and this whole grant seems to circumvent that core value of giving parents the right to know what's going on in their kids' lives. And I understand, Ms. Wonder, I actually have mentored a young girl who was homeless and pregnant. I understand the pain that you are faced with in trying to figure out how to help this person survive. It is painful. And at the end of the day, when asking Wendy, can we add an addendum to this MOU, she nodded her head and thought perhaps, I mean, it's a contract, it's an agreement. Why can't we add an addendum in addition to what's already in the understanding of the contract? And she never got back to me. She never got back to anybody. So asking for, to be met in the middle, she said she was gonna go back to the California Office of Education and see if they could add an addendum to our agreement, and she never got back to us. So that in itself says something, that they're not willing to work with us. And in her explanation of it not, we are not in Shasta County implementing this. But she also stated that they already looked into getting a medical van, and the only reason why they haven't implemented that was because of our liability insurance coverage. So she basically said, we don't have liability coverage for that yet. And so this is a part of the long-term plan, that they do want to implement this in our county, in our schools. And that's out of the horse's mouth. So to me, as a parent, I'm literally thinking of sending my kid to school here next year as a freshman. And I'm thinking, I would not want my child to have access to a medical van for any reason, because I don't want his medical care to be in the hands of someone else. I don't care if it's birth control or if it's whatever. It doesn't matter, because what happens if your child is getting medical services, mental or physical, and something goes wrong, right? Who knows if they're gonna offer vaccinations, if they're gonna offer HPV vaccinations? I don't know. We don't know what exactly. They wanna offer vision, hearing, dental, medical, it says that, it lists all of that out. So what happens if they do actually receive the service and something goes wrong? Who's held liable for that? The district? The state? Right? So I just think it sends us down a slippery slope if we stay in this, and it's $100,000, right, allocated to 3 different schools. Bottom line, in my opinion, is we are the gatekeepers. And Mr. Parker may not be here in 3 or 4 years. Principals, you may not be here in a couple of years. We may not be here in the next couple of years. So if we stay in this grant, in my opinion, and we allow ourselves to be a part of this consortium, it sets a precedent. So whoever comes after us, they may not have the same core values as we do. So they may want to implement medical and health services a decade from now. So if we are in this grant, and also in the grant, it gives us opportunities to extend our grant. It gives us opportunities to continue in the consortium, to continue receiving funding. So it doesn't seem to me, as I'm reading it in black and white, like this is just a one and done thing. It sounds like they want us to continue in this community service framework, and there's a long-term plan. So that's how I'm reading it, that's how I'm understanding it. I asked a lot of questions at the meeting, and I continue to ask a lot of questions. I do understand kids need mental health services, kids have trauma at home. I don't know why I'm sharing this, but, in all transparency, I was a kid who came from a home who was very underprivileged. I was a latchkey kid. I got kicked out of school in 10th grade by myself. The smoking pot on campus. The next alternative school got kicked out of that school. So I understand that these kids come from very difficult backgrounds. I understand that they don't have family who's even there to feed them dinner at night, because I was one of those kids. But to have someone continue to want to talk about your trauma versus trying to pull you up and to push you higher versus helping you to stay in victimhood is not the way that we create productive citizens. That is not the way. We are a organization, we are educating students. We are educating citizens who are going to run our country in the next 20, 30 years. And we do not need to, in my opinion, what's the word I want to use? We don't need to, give them a crutch. We don't want this to be a crutch. We don't want our kids to stay in victimhood. We want to call them higher. And, so I'm of the mindset that this is not a road that I want to continue on. I would like to make a motion to, remove ourselves from this grant, remove our district from this grant.
Do I have a second?
Did you want to comment?
Do I want to comment? Oh, I'd like a second.
Second, Madam President?
All in favor of removing ourselves from this grant?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Passes 4-1. Seven one. Do we have any representative comments?
Well, frankly, I'm disappointed. I'm sad for our students. I'm sad for our faculty. I heard a lot tonight about how we don't want social programs in public school. Public school is a social program. I'm very concerned that members of this board are against social programs while serving on a board for a literal social program. Everyone else should be concerned as well. Thank you. It is a social program.
Superintendent comment?
I appreciate everybody, pushing their 2 cents and being respectful tonight. To the point of order, we allow 3 minutes per person to speak, 20 minutes maximum. And so when someone goes over those 3 minutes, we're trying to be courteous, but what I realized tonight is we're cutting other people off at the very end who now don't have time to speak. So in the future, I'm gonna be stern and keep it 3 minutes maximum. That's all I'm saying.
I'll go first as trustee comment. I want to commend Josh Mason for everything you've done, bringing in
program and what you're looking at, all that you're doing for the kids is awesome. I think it's really good. There's such an asset to the school district. And what you're thinking about and looking at with the curriculum and getting units and everything, it's really good, so thank you.
When can we bring in the VR sets next year? We got some interesting things coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, we're thinking outside the box. Any other questions, comments?
I will just say, my condolences to the loss of, the district having one of its prime employees, understand that he had training only at his service today, and so I just wanted to give my condolences sincerely for the loss of this district and the Anderson community.
Customer area referring to Mr. Mancuso, who was a longtime coach, teacher, vice principal,